As graduation approached, I had originally planned with my best friend to go on a trip together with our boyfriends. But unexpectedly, right before departure, I suddenly broke my promise. You guys go ahead. I have something to take care of at home. My best friend Liu Ryan and her boyfriend Jin Buxing were very unhappy hearing this. We already agreed on everything. How can you back out at the last minute? My boyfriend Mao Bufan was also frowning on the side. Xiao Tao, stop messing around. We're about to leave. Hurry up and pack your things. Watching these two play off each other, I recalled my previous life. We were trapped in the villa by heavy rain for an entire week. Just when we thought the sky was clearing, a blizzard struck. Temperatures plummeted. The entire country fell into chaos. Snow as tall as a person completely sealed the roads. Water and electricity were cut off. The villa had limited food reserves. Because of that, they threw me out into the snow. I watched them living in my villa, eating the food I had prepared, while I froze to death in the blizzard. Fortunately, I was reborn. This time, it's my fault. You guys go have fun as planned. I've already arranged the whole travel itinerary for you. Liu Ryan complained on the surface about how I suddenly changed my mind, but her eyes were filled with obvious delight. Have fun. I smiled meaningfully, then turned and walked away. From now on, without the supplies I prepared, I'd like to see how you survived the blizzard. The blizzard would arrive in half a month. My time was very tight. I sold at a low price the apartment my parents bought me. Quickly cashing out, this apartment was bought after I got into college. My parents were worried I wouldn't adjust to dorm life, so they specifically bought it near the school. With substantial funds in hand, I began buying supplies in bulk. Then I arranged direct delivery, shipping everything straight to my parents, one oversized truck after another, headed toward my hometown. By this time, 5 days had already passed since my rebirth. I came across Liu Ryan on social media. The three of them. I looked at their group photo. Liu Ryan stood in the middle, smiling radiantly. Jin Buxing and Mao Bufan stood on either side. And the familiar scene behind them was the very villa we stayed in during my previous life. Should I call this fate? A fate I orchestrated. This villa was deep in the mountains, rarely visited by anyone. In my previous life, before entering the villa, I had purchased large quantities of supplies. I smiled, closed my phone, and stopped paying attention. I focused on driving toward my hometown. Night fell. While resting at a service area, I suddenly remembered that the villa had been left unoccupied for years. When I handed the property over to the agent had installed several security cameras so I could check on the property remotely. With that in mind, I opened the surveillance app on my phone. The living room had already been trashed by them. Leftover takeout containers everywhere. Liu Ryan was nestled in Jin Buxing's arms, scrolling her phone. Good thing Zhang Xiaotao didn't come along, or we couldn't have had this much fun. Mao Bufan sat on the other sofa, listening to someone badmouth his girlfriend without even lifting his head. At least she's generous. Eating, drinking, and having fun without spending a dime. Of course it feels great. HNPH. If she weren't rich, I wouldn't even bother hanging out with her. Always acting like a nouveau rich. And loves to show off. So this is how they really saw me. I laughed at myself bitterly. Let them wait to be trapped to death in that villa. With that thought, I started the car and drove through the night. I couldn't wait to see my parents. Finally, around noon, I arrived at the northernmost part of the country, the vast Hashi grassland, the largest in the nation. I cried bitterly as I returned home. Oh, my dear child, stop crying. What happened? Tell mom and dad. We'll stand up for you. After calming down with my red, swollen eyes, I recounted everything from my previous life. Dad was furious after hearing it. Those bastards. I'll chop them to pieces. Mom's eyes also turned red. She kept comforting me. You're home now. This time we will never let you be alone again. Feeling my parents' warmth. The approaching apocalypse suddenly didn't seem so terrifying anymore. After the family calmed down, we finally sat down to discuss how to survive the coming blizzard apocalypse. The heating equipment I bought should have all arrived by now and should already be installed, along with the nearby wind turbines standing tall on the grassland. The deep grassland already had harsh winters. With constant heavy snow, the house had been carefully designed with top-notch insulation. There were year-round reserves of generators and firewood. Charcoal filled an entire room. Generator fuel was readily available. As for water, we mostly used groundwater. I had already bulk purchased food before coming home. And on the grassland, you'd never run short of meat. Dad found buyers for most of the family's cattle and sheep, exchanging them for cash. The remaining half were all slaughtered. Part of the meat was stored in the freezer, and part was made into jerky. Just as our family finished all the preparations, the torrential rain arrived without warning, without any omen. The storm struck. Fierce wind and rain pounded against the doors and windows. I sat by the window. The sky outside was pitch black. It was just like this moment in my previous life. Online, people were still joking about this once-in-a-century rainstorm. Even the long-parched desert regions couldn't escape this downpour. No one could have imagined that after the rain would come endless cold and a snow-covered void. The rain continued for days. Massive floods surged into the cities. Ground floor buildings were completely submerged. Dad had been watching the news these past few days, looking worried. Here on the northernmost grassland, the temperature had already dropped to 0 degrees. I went back to my room, opened the surveillance footage on my phone. On screen, Jin Buxing, Liu Ryan, and Mo Bufan were holed up in the vacation villa. None of them was willing to go out in the rain. The living room was piled with takeout trash, probably just like before. They had overpriced takeout delivered from the restaurant down the mountain. The air conditioning was on full blast, but they were still shivering from the cold. What a useless air conditioner, Jin Buxing complained non-stop. Mao Bufan was also scrolling his phone, cursing that the rain was too heavy and no one was accepting delivery orders anymore. Timidly suggested going out to buy supplies. Only to get it if you want to go buy yourself from Jin Buxing. I curled the corner of my mouth. In my previous life, this is exactly how they half-coaxed, half-forced me to go out in the pouring rain to buy supplies. It took me a full 3 hours to get back, and all that greeted me were complaints. This life, let's see what you'll do. On the screen, the three of them huddled together. None of them was willing to go out. I turned off the surveillance and sneered inwardly. 5 days flew by. In the middle of the night, I suddenly opened my eyes, walked to the window, and found that it was snowing heavily outside. Heavy snow in July. The temperature plunged to -30°C. The entire Blue Star was covered in snow. Online, some joked about wearing down jackets in July, while others panicked. The floodwaters that had submerged two-story buildings began to slowly freeze. In the early morning, I touched the scalding hot heating pipe. This building's heating system had been upgraded long ago. The indoor temperature stayed at a steady 20°C. Eating breakfast. Scrolling through my phone, news alerts popped up one after another. Official announcements urged citizens to stockpile food and clothing, avoid going outside, and said that once the weather improved slightly, drones would be used to deliver supplies. I frowned. My previous life told me things were far from that simple. The blizzard had already dropped temperatures to -30°C. Because of the earlier rainstorm, the accumulated snow couldn't be cleared at all. Push away the loose snow on top, and underneath was solid ice. Ice layers as high as a two-story building. In just a few days, the temperature would drop to the point where even drones couldn't fly. This was a catastrophe. I opened the village surveillance Those three had finally decided to go out and shop. They braved the wind and snow and stepped out of the villa. A few hours later, they came back, carrying 3 bags of snacks and instant noodles. It seemed some convenience stores at the foot of the mountain were still open. Jin Buxing told Liu Ryan to go boil some hot water. Liu Ryan reluctantly walked into the kitchen, then screamed. The water was cut off. Mao Bufan didn't seem to care. We still have all these drinks. Worst case, we can just melt snow. How much longer can this snow even last? The 3 of them relaxed and sprawled back on the sofa. I laughed silently. In a few days, the power will go out too. That evening, our family had sauerkraut and sliced pork hot pot. We lit the alcohol stove. The broth bubbled and gurgled. The 3 of us ate until we were warm and cozy. Dad squinted his eyes and said, "Snow days are made for hot pot." After that, the temperature plunged to minus 50 C. We checked all the batteries and wind turbines. We were like an isolated island in the apocalypse. A few days later, the temperature dropped to minus 65 C. The villa had lost power. I reviewed the previously stored surveillance footage. All 3 were crammed in the living room. After the air conditioning stopped, the room was cold as an ice cellar. In the dark, Jin Buxing and Mao Bufan tacitly snatched Liu Ryan's blanket. Her screams echoed through the empty rooms. Then she was impatiently thrown out of the villa by Mao Bufan and Jin Buxing. Before long, a blissful smile appeared on her face. Delirious, she stripped off her last piece of clothing and lay on the ground. So cool, finally cool. Her pupils dilated. Her smile grew wider and wider. Just like that, she froze to death. My gaze was ice cold. Mao Bufan and Jin Buxing were utterly selfish. Once the apocalypse truly arrived, Liu Ryan was certain to die. The temperature kept dropping. After the power went out, our family relied on the wind turbines for basic electricity. We switched to the wood-burning stove for cooking. I sat before the hearth, adding firewood, watching the flames crackle and dance. Outside, the blizzard howled. Yet somehow, I found it warm and comforting. Another week passed. The power was briefly restored. The temperature was at minus 70 C, and the signal came back. I hurriedly opened the villa surveillance. The living room was unrecognizable. All the tables and chairs had been dismantled for firewood. I panned the camera angle and saw, at the bathroom doorway, Liu Ryan's body, Jin Buxing, was dragging Mao Bufan's body by the ankle into the living room. I understood instantly. Each of them had wanted to hoard all the supplies. Jin Buxing was the last one standing. Night fell. The signal tower, probably only recently repaired, collapsed again under the weight of the snow. The phone signal was gone. Outside the window, the blizzard raged again. At the current temperature, going outside to clear the snow in the yard risked frostbite or illness. So we simply boarded up all the first floor doors and windows with wooden planks and moved the whole family to the second floor. After that, the blizzard continued. The radio occasionally broadcast messages of persistence is victory. Days passed one by one. Half a year later, the blizzard stopped. The temperature rose from the previous minus 80 C to 0 C in just a matter of days. Before people could celebrate, the snow melted rapidly. Floods came. Riverside and coastal buildings were washed away. The TV signal was restored. Dad and I sat on the sofa, watching reporters cover the post-disaster scenes. I wonder what happened to Jin Buxing now. I took out my phone and dialed. It actually went through. "Xia Tao, are you all right?" He was still pretending to care. Over the phone, he asked where I was. His tone carried a hint of resentment. I asked him how he was doing. He said he'd been scraping by in the villa, waiting for the snow to stop. The mountain floods destroyed the villa. I asked him about Liu Ryan and Mao Bufan. He stammered and said they didn't make it. "Jin Buxing, the villa you stayed in is my property. I have all the surveillance footage." He fell silent for a moment, then screamed hysterically into the phone. "Impossible! You're lying to me. I barely survived. I contacted the local police and uploaded the surveillance footage to the cloud. After that, I never heard from him again. A few months later, the floods receded. The sky finally cleared completely. Schools reopened. I soon officially graduated. Then I went back to the grassland with Mom and Dad, helping Dad manage the ranch, helping Mom make jerky. Life had its own special charm.